looks like he's 17 years old, and it says Elder Bob on his label. Because, yeah, they're automatic elders. Okay? All right, you ready?
Okay, Patrick, tell us a bit more about this Mormonism thing. Yeah, Patrick, tell us. Okay, but I keep telling you, my name's not Patrick, it's Kyle. I'm not talking to you, Patrick. I'm talking to the Patrick standing next to you.
My name's Bryce.
Quit your stalling, Patrick. Yeah, cut the jibba-jabba and save our souls already, Patrick.
Okay, well, like I said, God revealed to Joseph Smith that the true church ceased to exist after the death of the apostles, and that Joseph Smith was going to restore the one true church.
Yes, and you can know that the Mormon church is the one true church because we always have 12 living apostles. Let me get this straight. Yeah, let's iron this one right out, Patrick. According to the Mormon church, you don't have the true church without 12 living apostles.
That's right.
But also according to the Mormon church, the Apostle John never died and is in fact still roaming this earth. According to section 7 of Doctrines and Covenants, that's correct. Patrick, is St. John the Evangelist currently an apostle in the Mormon church?
No, he's not.
Speak up, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick, we can't hear you beneath the sound of your prophet's mountainous continuity error.
I don't think it's an error, it's just,
Oh, really, Patrick? Come on, Patrick. So you're telling me that after 1,800 years with no church to worship in, no fellow believers to gather with, no one to preach to, baptize, commune, or consecrate, that the disciple whom Jesus loved was too busy tap dancing atop a pile of yak manure to claim the spot Jesus gave him on the freshly rebooted apostolic roster? I don't know about the yak.
Now, the Mormon church, one of their weird things is they teach that when in John chapter 21, when Jesus turns to Peter and says, what is it to you if I say this disciple is going to wait until all these things happen? I think that's a fair summary of what he says. And then John clarifies, this doesn't mean that that disciple is going to live forever. It just means Jesus was questioning, who does Peter think he is? He's still got a problem with trying to tell Jesus the best ideas, right? Well, that's John the apostle, okay? He's supposedly still alive according to Mormon church, okay?
And you're also telling me that in the subsequent time since the one true church awoke from its near 2,000-year coma, that the guy who wrote 5 books of the Bible couldn't even be bothered to show up at your Salt Lake City headquarters for an official meet and greet. I tell you what, Patrick. Yeah, turn on your listening ears, Patrick. Let's make a deal, Patrick. Oh, we're about to go Monty Hall on you, Patrick. When it comes to your supposed one true church and the disciple whom Jesus loved, we'll convert to Mormonism as soon as he does.
Okay, I don't think you understand the complexities of this. You see, even though almost everyone thought he was dead, he wasn't really dead. But he couldn't just show up again and tell people he was still alive.
Right, because that would have gone against everything he was trying to teach them. Yes, Patrick, we know. The Dark Knight Rises was a very compelling piece of cinematic storytelling. But let's get back to St. John the Evangelist.
Okay, one more. Now listen, this is important.
Okay, Patrick, tell us a bit more about your super comforting gospel message again. Yeah, Patrick, soothe our spirits with that latter-day balm of Gilead one more time.
Well, as I was saying, even though none of us has done everything Heavenly Father requires in order to be saved, He still promised to give His grace to all of us. That's right. You see, 2 Nephi 25:23 states, "For we know that it is by grace that we are saved, after all we can do." Isn't that great?
Ein minuta, por favor, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick, temporarily halt your evangelistic forward progress whilst we process the pontifications of your prophet. So we agree that the law of God says you must perfectly love your Lord with all your heart and perfectly love your neighbor as yourself in order to merit salvation.
Sure, yeah.
And we furthermore agree that no one, aside from Jesus himself, has achieved the perfection necessary for salvation.
Right.
And according to your aforementioned sacred scriptures, God has promised to give his saving grace to those who, despite their best efforts, Patrick, what you've just said is less comforting than a pair of Brillo pad underpants. Yeah, Patrick, your gospel is less soothing than a jalapeno sriracha bubble bath.
What do you mean? Yeah, we just showed you from the Book of Mormon that God will still save us even if we aren't perfect.
No, Patrick, I'm pretty sure you just showed us from the Book of Mormon that you're both gonna burn in hell forever.
What are you talking about? Yeah, we're not really picking up what you're laying down here.
Well then, Patrick, grant us a mere 40.305 seconds, and we'll show you how, according to your own theology, you can both expect to be bathing in sulfur for all eternity.
All right.
And here we go. Patrick, what's a better way to love God with all your heart? Spending 2 hours watching a movie or spending 2 hours praying?
2 hours praying, obviously.
Agreed. Another, Patrick. What's a better way to love your neighbor as yourself? Spending 2 hours watching a movie or spending 2 hours volunteering in a homeless shelter?
Definitely the homeless shelter.
Agreed again. Now, Patrick, have you ever been to a movie?
Sure.
Yeah. And when you went to that movie, you were perfectly capable of praying or feeding the homeless instead, but you actively chose not to do these holier things, correct?
Well, yeah.
Well then, whereas your prophet Nephi says that God only gives his grace to those who have done all they can do to keep the law, and whereas your 2005 ticket stub for the adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl proves that you haven't done all you can do, therefore be it resolved that you both stand condemned, according to your own theology.
Oh my heck. I never even thought about that. Well, I'll never be saved if that's how God's grace works. Yeah, that's a terrifying idea. I don't want to go to hell. What should we do?
Well, you could just believe that mankind is saved by grace alone through faith alone, that every ounce of our salvation has been won for us in the death of Jesus Christ alone, and that the faith we need to receive that salvation has been created in our hearts by the Holy Spirit alone. Which means that even though we didn't do all we could do to inherit eternal life, God has already given us all we needed to inherit eternal life by covering us in the perfect righteousness of his Son. I mean, you could just believe this, since it's the clear teaching of Romans 3 and 4 and 5, Ephesians 2, Titus 3, all of Galatians, and pretty much every other page of the Bible, Patrick. So instead of letting an honest reading of your false prophet's teachings convince you that you're going to hell, you could just believe the true gospel given to us by the apostles and prophets themselves and no longer be filled with crippling fear.
Yeah, but then we'd have to tell our parents that we weren't Mormons anymore.
So just to be clear, you're more afraid of your mother than you are the wrath of God.
Yeah, pretty much. Does that make us bad people?
Sorta, but mostly it just makes you Irish.
Oh my heck.
By the way, why are you guys flipped from how you were standing before?
Oh, we just put on our Halloween costumes. I'm dressed as Connell.
Oh, and are you dressed as Donald?
No, I'm dressed as former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop.
Okay. So, and look, guys, this is the reality of every single heresy. They're all based on doing the best you can, and Jesus will do the rest. So on the way home yesterday, Addie said, yeah, Jesus will take care of the rest. She read a progressive denomination church sign on Bell Road, and it basically do the rest. You know, after you've done your best, God will do what you need, or something like that. You know, and first time I saw it, I was, mulling, could I get enough money to get an 8-foot by 10-foot banner and pop it up on the other side of the road that said, so God does everything, right? Because we can't do anything to save ourselves, right? Now, the danger is antinomianism, right? The Roman Catholic Church is formally afraid that if you tell people you can't do anything to save yourself, they're just going to go, oh, I just have to trust in, okay, fine, I believe in Jesus. Hey, where's the porn? That's what they're afraid of. Now, that's actually a valid fear, okay? The problem is the Bible's answer to that is not, therefore, tell them to try hard and hope for the best. That's not how the gospel works. The gospel works this way. The Spirit convicts you that you deeply, more than anything you ever imagined, can't do a thing that will merit God's grace and favor, even a tiny bit. You stand completely and totally condemned. There is no hope. You're destined for an eternity of what happens to rebels against him. Oh, sure, some rebels are worse than you in what they've actually done. But in your heart of hearts, you have the same total depravity source that they do. You're in rebellion against God. That's it. You're doomed. The Spirit convicts you of that. But he does so in such a way that actually sounds delightful. That actually sounds enjoyable. That actually sounds, might we say it this way, oh, thank God. I thought there was something wrong with me. I feel this way all the time. You follow what I'm saying? That's what guilt is, guys. You feel this way. No matter how hard I try, it's like, pardon my lack of Southern politeness now, but it's appropriate to use this Northeastern language. I feel like damned if I do and damned if I don't. God's never satisfied. He's worse than my mother, if we could joke. Okay? By the way, it's Scotch-Irish. It's not just Irish. So, you get delighted. You go, oh, I remember a friend, he's now with the Lord. He's a doctor, medical doctor, wonderful, wonderful brother in the Lord. When he found out his one granddaughter, who was at AUM, she was living in immorality, and she had a dinner with him, and she said, Granddad, I just wanted to tell you, I don't believe in Jesus anymore. She was scared to death to tell him that. And he responded this way, oh, thank the Lord. And she's like, I don't understand. And she's like, he said, well, it's really simple. Either you're schizophrenic, there's something medically wrong with you, or you're just being a hypocrite and you don't want to tell anyone. I've been praying for you for a while now. It creates delight when you see this. But he doesn't leave you with just, I'm condemned. He also leaves you with, I'm graced. He convinces you that there is someone who actually did live that perfect life, did die that substitute death, and to prove it's true and to provide the resources, he rose from the dead. He's still alive now, and he still has the right and the authority, that's why he's Lord of Lords, King of Kings, to send the Spirit who gives life, the one who gave you the breath of life when you were physically created, now gives you the Spirit of life when you're born again. And so you believe those two things with a confidence and a joy that's never going to go away. Now, if you continue to sin, two things happen, okay? One, the Holy Spirit makes sure that your renewed conscience works overtime. You feel guilty. But you never feel like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. You still have this desire to run to him. I know God cares. I know he'll take care of this. I know he won't leave me like this. He'll cleanse me again. He won't get me saved all over again. I'm already saved. He'll cleanse me again. He'll draw me in. He'll tell me he loves me. And he'll convince me of my need to trust more in Jesus. In other words, he'll give you more of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus in your experience. You'll grow. Now, that's what the Mormon missionaries don't have. That's what that liberal church, we used to call them liberals, now let's call them progressives, that progressive church doesn't understand. And that's what sadly most of us from our evangelical backgrounds never quite get explicitly told. Just make sure you get the gospel. The gospel says, no, you're worse. Well, I think this about myself. I used to think this about myself, but now I think this about myself. No, you got a long way to go before you ever get even close to how bad you are. Total depravity. You haven't done as bad as you could. You are as bad as you could be. I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Therefore, when God says it really is free, all of the burden is on Jesus. None of it's on you. I mean, even the gift of the Holy Spirit who gives you the new life of Jesus, even that is completely free. That's what frees you. All right, make sense? Okay? I don't think I have any more cartoons. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's an article I'm reading. It's taking me forever. Garrett, are you already done that article, by the way? There we go. I want to make sure I felt better. Okay. So, all right. So, continuing to look at heresies, we're now done that one. We're now into Santa Muerta. This is one of my favorite because it's so fun to say. Okay? This is the worship of a female deity, Santa Muerta, Saintess Death. This is a merger of Roman Catholicism and Mexican neo-paganism. Now, when you see neo in front of something, what you're being told is that there is an organized effort to renew something that was old and no longer relevant. And so paganism. Now, you might get this, all right? All pagan religions are based on demons, okay? The Old Testament calls these people when they're in the wilderness, okay, here's how you're going to sacrifice. No longer go out into the wilderness and sacrifice to your goat demons, okay? All pagan religion is based on demons. It's based on the idea that there's some spiritual forces that control things around me, sometimes in me, and I've got to placate them. I got to buy them off. I got to give them sacrifices of life at the end of the day in order to keep them happy with me. And I can sometimes make a deal with them. I'll give you this. Well, what's that? Oh, the life of my neighbor. The life of those strangers. I killed their family and took them into slavery. The life of my own children. We're doing that in our culture in ways that are horrible these days. All pagan religion is based on some sort of, at the end of the day, how do I fix my biggest problem? What's the biggest problem every human being has? No, not sin. That's the Christian explanation, okay? But what does watch this. What does Satan use? Fear. Yeah, fear of what? Death. There you go. Death is the biggest problem. I like how Jenny is. Oh, well, we got 4 options. A wasn't the right answer. B? No. C? It's great. You keep at it, girl. So death is our biggest problem. I know sin is a problem, but you don't know sin until you've been exposed to the Christian gospel and you start to buy it. Everyone says my biggest problem is death. I have a heart that says I'm supposed to live forever. I'm going to die. All right? The man who sits there, I mean, I remember a decade ago, my neighbor across the street, a little older than me, was taking something apart in his backyard and rebuilding it, you know? And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it going, well, why didn't you use the right materials in the first place? You wouldn't have to rebuild it in 10 years. You know, I should have known better by then. I'm from the Mid-Atlantic. In the Mid-Atlantic, I don't think I've ever painted trim outside of a house one time in my life in the Mid-Atlantic. Okay, down here, every 5 years, and I'm told that I'm a slacker. Well, actually, Addie's a slacker. She paints it, not me. So, but you get the point, right? The temperature, the heat, all this, it's much more difficult to maintain. By the way, Graham, I still have that trim at the top of the corner of the roof there, okay? Not going to work, okay? That location is not going to work for Graham either. He and Brennan, they get over 10 feet and they turn into blubbering babies, okay? You know, I'm afraid of heights, but I'm not a blubbering baby. Anyway, I'm just teased a little bit. So, fear of death. We're going to placate death. So along comes a religion that basically conquers everything you've ever believed in and says, we've got a solution for death. Believe these things, do these things, and if you do them just enough, maybe you'll go to heaven. Sorry. Got to spend 1,000,000 years in purgatory. Maybe 10. Let's go for 1,000. Who knows? Paying off your own sufferings in a version of hell. You know? It's not true, okay? For those of you who don't know, it's not true, all right? But Roman Catholicism, the systems are the same. It's easy to explain how they merge. But what's not so easy is how to explain Santa Muerta. Where did she come from? Anyone know one of the pagan holidays that has become a norm in Mexican Roman Catholicism, in Latin America Roman Catholicism? What's it called? Say that again, a little louder. Dia de la Muerta, which in English means? Day of the Dead. And what do? They honor the dead. They dance around. It's basically, imagine Halloween and Mardi Gras squeezed together. Costumes, food festival, worship, and you'll see them walking through the town, all right? A couple of guys carrying this big platform, and on it is this statue of this beautiful bride, all right, wearing a crown. And you're going, oh, that's Mary, right? That's what you're thinking. And then you move around front and you look and you go, that's a skull. And then you look at her hands holding the flowers. That's a skeleton. Welcome to Day of the Dead. So this developed. It seems to have taken off in the last 30 years as the drug cartels gained more and more power. Okay? Now this is actually witchcraft. This is how it works. Okay? It's very devilish. Okay? It's supposed to provide protection from suffering in life, death, violence, healing, safe passage after death. The idol is a skeletal figure dressed as a woman. There's upwards of 10 to 20 million followers. This is not small time, let's laugh at it. I saw it on a TV show. Mayan Aztec death worship roots, Day of the Dead celebrations. You remember how the Aztecs played their game? It was a combination of basketball and lacrosse. Remember how they played that? It was brutal. Imagine rollerball. Remember the movies with rollerball, James Caan? You're on roller skates, and the goal is to try and get the goal, okay? And you're beating each other up, trying to get there. And I mean, it's brutal, all right? That's the Aztec game. What happens to the team that loses? They get sacrificed. Every now and then, up at the top of those beautiful Machu Picchu, no, that's in India. What's the one? Eats a chicken? No, that's. Yeah, it's a chicken is what? Peru? No, Machu Picchu is Peru. Yeah, that's what I meant. I was thinking Incas and it came out India. So, all right. No, it's a chicken. I think it's chiquitita. There we go. I always reversing. It's a chicken. By the way, they've done some studies in southern Mexico, northern, Guatemala. Okay, they've done some now aerial ground searching radar, and they've determined that there was cities all over the place. They had upwards of 10 million people in the Mayan Empire. It was huge, with step pyramids everywhere. Where do you think they learned step pyramids from? Anyone say Tower of Babel? And what did they sacrifice at the top of them? A slave or an enemy's heart taken out of their living body. Sorry for the children here. Tyler, that would be you. Okay? Roman Catholic saint roots, apparently that can be connected to a woman named Donna Sebastiana de Casa y Paredes. If you ever talk to any Hispanic friends, ask them to give you all their names. It's fun. Supposedly an Ecuadorian virgin who suffered, forced to marry against her will. Death released her from her plight. She died, right? She's Juliet without the Romeo. Best way to describe it, okay? She's the Princess Bride, the dark version, okay? As you will, Wesley never comes, okay? He's having too much fun being the Dwed Pilot Wobbits, okay? Significantly involved in the narco lifestyle, all right? Anything about Santa Muerta you want to talk about? What? What movie? What movie? Coco. Who watches these pagan things? Apparently you guys do. No, I'm just teasing. Just teasing. Okay. You watch it at my house. Graham, what are you doing showing those things? Yeah, it was a girls' night. Megan? All right, so let's move on to Satanism. Okay? Now, notice the first thing we say about Satanism. You all agree? It's a Christian cult? I remember the first time someone said that. I'm like, don't be stupid. And then I read the argument, and I'm like, oh. You know how many other cultures believe in Satan? Only Christian cultures. Everyone else has a pantheon of gods. And they're a mix of how many of you are old D&D idiots? Spend any time in D&D? Garrett's the only honest one among you, okay? I know some of you are D&D idiots, Dungeons and Dragons, okay? So, Garrett, do you remember the God Matrix? You get to pick your deity. Lawful, unlawful, good versus bad. Okay? There's 9 different types of deities. And you get to pick which one you worship and follow and call on. That's very consistent with paganism. Okay? So, Satan is nothing more than a Christian, a biblical explanation of the source of external evil. It's true. Okay? It's very interesting. Roman Catholicism, French Revolution. Anyone knows some things about details about the French Revolution? Okay, Lori, there you got put on a spot there. All right. Who were the institutions hated by the French revolutionaries, the Jacobins, for example? Who did they hate? Remember? The aristocracy, the nobility, the ruling class, and the church. And it was the Catholic Church. If you study your history a little more, study the history of the Huguenots, for example, okay? And you'll find out that the Roman Catholic Church persecution of Calvinism, by the way, all right, was vicious and brutal and treacherous. They were lying traitors, hypocrites who broke their promises on a regular basis. It's nothing but evil. And these were under the leadership of the nobility and the Roman Catholic Church. End of story. So nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. We all know that, right? Okay? In Spain, the Inquisition was worse than just about anywhere else, and that's true, okay? I don't think it ended until the 20th century, where the formal office went away in Spain. But you had other areas, and this was one of them. All right, 2 different types of beliefs. Theistic belief in a literal Satan, a father figure for mankind. And so what you have is people who were elites, thinkers, eggheads in France who are hateful of the status quo. They want to destroy the status quo in order to then be able to pick up the pieces. Okay? Now, this is a modern philosophy. It was actually developed, by disciples of Hegel in Germany in the mid-1800s. Anyone know the name Marx and Engels? Okay? Yeah, this is, we know it today as Marxism, but it really is dialectic theory of history, okay? And it's a different way of looking at the world. And in order to make a new civilization, you've got to destroy the old one. Well, how do you destroy the old one? Well, you take its weaknesses and you leverage them against it. And eventually it'll implode. It'll collapse in on itself. Well, these people were part of that kind of movement. How do we destroy the church? Well, we come up with worship of Satan. And so you'll look at theistic Satanism, and all their practices are the reversal of what you would find in a Roman Catholic church. Anyone know what they call their worship service? There's a rock band. Hey, we're going to do a rock song for you. Give me a bat. Black Sabbath. Was that a pretty good Ozzy Osbourne imitation there? Oh, gosh. I thought I did pretty good. What's her name? What's her name? Something Osbourne. What's her first name? What? Sharon! Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne. Anyway, Black Sabbath. It's the reverse. I mean, they take, for example, the communion wafer. That's supposedly literally the body of Jesus. It isn't. It's just bread, okay? But in the Roman Catholic teaching, it's literally the body of Jesus, and they desecrate it, right? They do horrible, disgusting things to a tiny little piece of bread in order to demonstrate. Here's one for you. You guys don't even realize this. Take a cross, the sign of Jesus' victory. Turn it upside down. Lori's doing it with me. Break the arms. Put a circle of power around it to show that you have control of the evil forces inside the circle. Oh, that's a piece of jewelry. It's called a peace sign. Mm-hmm. Exactly right. It's evil. Okay? Now, am I worried about a peace sign? No, I'm not worried about a peace sign. I'm worried about what it communicates. Right? All right, and then you have atheistic Satanism, and this tends to be the majority of intellectuals who choose to be satanic. Okay? They're not involved with the dark arts and everything else. They just recognize that Satan is a symbol. Okay? And they have their 10 commandments, right? And it really just boils down to 2, just like in the church. Their 10 commandments are, do what thou wilt, stopping only at the harm to others. They buy into Satanism because it's maximal personal liberty. I can do whatever I want as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. Right? Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? How many times have you been hurt by someone else and they said, what? What? I didn't mean nothing. This is normal. We use and abuse each other because we've been cut off from the source of life, and we got to steal life from someone, or we're never going to be able to be happy. Their core belief, do what you will, short of harm to another. Absolute freedom of individual from any and all creeds, belief systems, and codes of conduct. Its ultimate self-theistic worship system, and most rituals are a mimicry of the reversal of Roman Catholic practices. All right, any questions about Satanism? Okay, I got one more. You want me to go or wait till next week? Go? All right, Scientology. We've been slowly, in these heresies, moving into the realm of, come on, you've got to be kidding me. Okay? And other than taking you on a tour of Skinwalker Ranch, I don't know where else to go. That's not a pagan religion. That's not a heresy in the church, so we're not going to go there. But Scientology is a very interesting, modern, pagan religion that completely breaks everything. And so I'm going to see if I can't show you this video because it's odd enough. And I think we'll be all right here. Let me share it. I don't think there's any people pretending to be Jesus in here. If there are, just bear with me. They're pretending.
5 million years ago was an intergalactic alien ruler named Xenu. Xenu was in charge of the 76 planets in this part of the galaxy, including Earth, which was then named as Tethia. Xenu had quite the problem. All the 76 planets he controlled were overpopulated, averaging 170 billion people per planet. So Xenu formulated a plan. help of renegades, Zeno defeated the loyal officers and took complete control. Then, with the help of the evil psychiatrists, he called in trillions of people for income tax inspections. But they were instead given injections of a paralyzing mixture of alcohol and glycol. The unconscious people were loaded onto space planes that looked like DC-8s, except they had rocket motors and could fly 300 light years in 9 weeks.
This is all
These
Scientology
space planes
teaches.
flew to T-Gap. The unconscious people were stacked around the bases of volcanoes. Then H-bombs were lowered into the volcanoes and detonated. All the theatins, souls of the dead people, were blown about by the nuclear winds. In order to get rid of these wandering theatins,
Okay. Remember Gnosticism at the beginning? The real person is the soul. The body is just a shell. Okay? This is why Scientology is a Gnostic heresy. Okay? It's real far from its convictions, right, of Christianity, but it shares this at the very core with Christian Gnosticism.
directed special electronic beams in which to ensnare them.
Ghostbusters.
Xenu and the renegades captured the theatins and placed them into boxes. The boxes of theatins were shipped to huge cinemas. The theatins spent days watching special 3D motion pictures. These films implanted ideas of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and
There's a
other
picture.
lies
Sorry,
into the
guys.
Theatins, confusing them. As the theatins left the cinema, they began to cluster together, believing they were one entity. The theatin clusters inhabited the few living bodies that were left, our ancestors. Meanwhile, Xenu was finally overthrown by the loyal officers. Locked away in a mountain sealed by a force field that is powered by an eternal battery. It is there that Xenu remains to this very day. And so time goes on. Civilizations rise and fall, power shifts, humans migrate and populate, TV shows are created and canceled. All religions as we know them are merely the remnants of thoughts that were implanted in the theatins. These body theatins inhabit us all, warping our perception of reality. That's all going to change thanks to the coming of mankind's greatest ally, L. Ron Hubbard. March 13th, 1911. Lafayette Ronald Hubbard was born in Tilden, Nebraska. Throughout the 1930s, a young L. Ron wrote a large variety of stories. Mystery, action, romance, sci-fi, you name it.
Some of the sci-fis were interesting.
By the end of the 1930s, L. Ron was hired to write for Astounding Science Fiction magazine. The face of science fiction is changed forever. In 1950, L. Ron's 16-year study into the dynamics of existence, known as Dianetics, is published. The terror wrought by Xenu will soon be abolished. Dianetics is a sort of regression hypnotherapy whereby the clusters of body theatins that inhabit us all are removed, allowing us to regain our almost divine potential. This
Gnosticism.
process is known as auditing.
Going clear.
The pre-clear is audited by a second Scientologist known as the auditor, who is somewhat of a technician of Dianetics in Scientology. The body theatins are permanently eliminated from the pre-clear's body through repetitive memory regression. 1951. L. Ron discovers that man is fundamentally a spiritual being. This mind-blowing revelation leads to the formation of
Gnosticism.
this philosophy known as Scientology. 1954. In recognition of the spiritual nature of L. Ron's philosophy, several Scientologists in Los Angeles formed the First Church of Scientology. Scientology begins to gain huge popularity, especially among wealthy Hollywood types. It soon explodes into a billion-dollar tax-exempt world religion. Headquarters are established throughout the world to help spread the word of Hubbard. January 24th, 1986. After accomplishing all that he set out to do, L. Ron departs his body.
He died.
And yet, his legacy lives on through the millions of Scientologists worldwide, be they actors, musicians, people like you and me, and wealthy Hollywood types. Take it from rich January of 1975, I was working on my first film in Durango, Mexico. There I met an actress who gave me the book Dianetics. My career immediately took off, and I landed a leading role on the TV show Welcome Back, Kotter. I've been a successful actor for more than 20 years, and Scientology has played a major role in that success. In 2005, the book An Illustrated History of Scientology by Ulrich Wadika appears on the internet. This arrogant, infringing piece of work is immediately destroyed by the dedicated lawyers of the Church of Scientology, bringing peace to the world once more. Writing for a penny a word is ridiculous. If a man really wants to make $1 million, the best way would be to start his own religion. L. Ron Hubbard. We're excited. Church of Scientology, Friends of L. Ron Hubbard, a profile, Dianetics, a visual guidebook to the mind, Eldal Lund, Indris, Operation Clambook, Ashley Berry, Rollin, the Xenu leaflet. Thanks to Roger Gonnet for all his help, and Peter Swem for permanently banishing many body theatins. Of the author, Ulrich Wadika was born in
This is the guy who wrote
Bog,
this.
Ohio. He
Who
has been
did
a
this
Scientologist
video.
for 39 years and is a level 5 operating theatin. His current OT abilities include telepathy, perfect memory recall, amazing chest skills, impressive biceps, and the ability to smell music. Ulrich Wadika went to school for a while and eventually stopped going after he graduated. When he grows up, Ulrich Wadika wants to be a lawyer. In addition to illustrating factual books about the history of Scientology, Ulrich Wadika enjoys dancing, swimming, the outdoors, horseback riding, small business management, being a good listener, and romantic candlelit dinners for two. Contact Ulrich Wadika to find out how to donate money to him at rickwadika@gmail.com. So, that is an illustrated history of Scientology. I think we can realize that Rick is making fun of Scientology, and now you know more about what they actually believe, and you can combat it and with the light of Jesus Christ, and please be free from this religion. Thank you.
There you go. We're not going to watch body theatins. Jen.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the Scientology thing. Do the believers think that L. Ron Hubbard was like the savior from
Yeah.
Jews?
Yeah. He would, most of the modern heresies in America, it's the second go around of Eastern New Age philosophy, religion taking over. The first go around was in the 1800s, and that's where we get Christian Scientists, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. They're all influenced by this stuff, okay? This go around is much more blunt. You can thank the Beatles a little bit, okay? All right? John Lennon is like the high priest for going to India and becoming a Bhagwan Swami, okay? So, Evil Man. Did you just say John Lennon, the Beatles, are evil? Yeah, sorry. Evil Man, okay? Imagine, there you go, every time that thing comes on, listen to the lyrics, guys. Listen to the lyrics, all right? He was telling you religious belief, all right? George Harrison tended to be the sincere alcoholic, all right? Paul was kind of like, oh, yeah, all right, as long as we keep playing music together. And Ringo was like, hey, what? Yeah. All right? I think he's the only smart one of all of them. And you have all sorts of people in the late 60s. What is it? Tuning out. What did it say to get a little louder?
Tune in, turn on, drop out.
Yeah, tune in, turn on, drop out of the current culture. Okay? And one person or one set of scholars estimated there's over 1 million different gods and goddesses you can choose to worship in Hindu, and then Hinduism has a intellectual variety called Buddhism. Okay? Buddhism is basically the intellectual beliefs of Hinduism that are best lifted out of the system, okay? So yeah, he would be the same kind of Messiah as Buddha would be in Buddhism, all right? Or any of the various avatars, that's probably a better word for him, right? A spirit being who comes to earth to teach us all a better way to live. Does that help? Okay, other questions? Oh, perfect with it, right? Yes, you can smell it. That's great. Others? All right. Next Sunday, since I'm here, next Sunday? Yeah, next Sunday, we're going to start a new series called On the Fives. Now, some of you are familiar with the five solas. We're gonna look a little bit more fully at those. For some of you, you just need to get the basics down. And don't sweat this. I mean, I'm being ordained as a PCA pastor, and I'm going, if anyone asked me what the five solas were, I don't think I could tell them. I got to get those down. And then it was, tulip. Oh, man, I don't have those down. Right? I know, well, I've got one more to give to you, the five Presbyterians. Okay? And they're not going to be what you think. All right? Trust me, they're actually better than you imagined. Okay? Baptism is not in the list. Okay? So, we're going to do that. I'm going to try and do one a Sunday. We'll see how we do. All right? We've got last Sunday of the month. Is that right? Last Sunday? Fourth Sunday of the month. Julia, what? Kluko. I always mess up her last name. Kluko. All right? Who some of us have supported. She's back from her time in a third world country not to be named. Was it Algeria or Morocco?
North Africa.
Yeah, just North Africa, where she spent time learning languages and befriending Muslim women. Okay? Remember, Muslim women, Mormon women,